Hi everyone, it's really good to be here. My name is Martin Edlund, I'm the CEO of Minesto. We're here to talk a little bit about ocean energy and a unique technology and a unique company as such. You've heard the word sustainable, I think too many times maybe this afternoon here. This is in that sphere, of course, and in order to create sustainable societies, a sustainable planet, we need renewable energy to fuel the whole system. So generating technologies that produce green energy is at the backbone and core of all of those things. There are not so many such radically new innovations that will add to the energy mix for the future. What we do with ocean currents and tidal currents in Minesto is such a case. We are, as we speak, right in the middle of an emission of shares, and there might be some room to participate if anyone is interested in that. So what is it that you see here? You see a kite that produces energy by riding on tidal waves and ocean currents. And this is a towing photo from a drone. You will not be able to see it when it produces because it's completely submerged. I'll give you a little bit more on that as we move on. But first, I would like to celebrate a little bit with you the milestone we reached in February as a company. We grid connected our full-scale 1.2 megawatt power plant, the so-called Dragon 12, to the grid in the Faroe Islands together with our first customer there, the local utility SEV. This is a real significant event, a milestone in the history of us as a development company. Because this is the backbone of large-scale build-out of arrays, underwater parks, similar to what we see in the wind industry, with many units connected, feeding as a system into the grid. And of course, you can imagine, before you have the core product in place, proven, delivering stable electricity to grid, it's not easy to push project at the scale of billions or hundreds of millions through the commercial process. So this is what we have in place, and it's not just about the core production phase of the systems. It's very much about the logistics, the installation, the launch, the recovery procedures. I'll see if I can give you a little bit on that as we move on. And of course, this is recognized by industry and by more actors and globally than we've seen ever before. I mean, we're listed at First North. We've been really pushing our technology. It is exciting. So I think we've done well historically in sort of spreading the world of who we are and what we do. But what we have seen after the February launch is at a scale never seen before as a company. We get 10 times more publicity of anything that we push out related to this full-scale device. And this is really what we've been waiting for and what we've been pushing now in order to take serious commercial steps forward. And we're not after a small price, we're after something gigantic. When you start turning this into financial numbers, it's absolutely crazy. It's a global natural resource untapped by mankind that will deliver, with this technology, mind you, will deliver more than nuclear on Earth. 650 gigawatts installed capacity, hundreds of thousands of units in many areas of the world, covering basically all oceans. And this is a base load type of generation, which makes it highly competitive and complementary to the more mature solar and wind solutions that we have. If we turn this into financial numbers, the project investments, half of them will be Minesto sales as a part of the CapEx. So you can just put billions behind the gigawatts and you will see sort of the total addressable market capacity. This is, of course, long-term. We're going to start where we have close to shore, perfect conditions. But as we push the company forward, the technology will be able to cover areas equivalent of this installation. And of course, there is a huge aftermarket in this as well with service and spare parts. And those of you who have followed Minesto over the years, you will recognize that we are slightly increasing the market potential, not maybe every year, but frequently as we move forward. And that is related to the discovery of more exploitable resource. It's still so that we haven't really looked all around the globe on where you have narrow straits in between islands and shallower waters close to deeper waters, so forth and so on, and this builds this market. I think it's most significantly illustrated by the overrated market size in North America. Here we have NREL, Department of Energy, today with the Canadians, really analyzing and measuring the flows around North America. In other areas of the world, we're not there yet, which is good for us because it means that we will be able to push this as we move forward. And what we do technically, it is that we fly this kite tethered to the seabed, and it rides on the force created by the ocean current, the tidal current. This illustration that you see here is by scale and equivalent speed of what this 1.2 megawatt unit is doing at the moment in the Faroe Islands. So it's a 28-ton machine. It has a tether length here of around 50, 60 meters, and it's 12 meters in wingspan with this system, and a rated power of 1.2 megawatts. There is good potential to further increase the systems and do some notches and twitches to it to improve it further. But this is the baseline product for large-scale rollout of the technology. And it should be added, I should sort of stress that it's the inherent physical principles that we use that give us this huge market. And it is also this principle that gives us the competitive levelized cost of energy, that you can produce electricity at competitive cost with this, because we're using so little material. And this principle of flying in this trajectory means that we're working with high RPMs, high speeds of rotation, and lightweight systems. So it will hit all the difficult cost areas when you operate at sea by reducing weight and by being able also to push the boundaries of what natural resource we can use. We can go lower in flow than any other known technology today by what we're doing. And that gives us that enormous market that no one else is actually claiming. And it's not just about the flying principles as such. We have now several years of hands-on experience of logistics, service, maintenance, diagnostics, and we're doing it with really small vessels and a small dedicated team in the Faroe Islands. And this is easily duplicated and spread with partners over the world. It is heavily patented. That makes a huge difference in many investor contacts and also in relationship to the EU funding that is targeting the first big renewable projects with new technologies now, where we see a significant increase in commitment of let's say, of our taxpayer money in that system. This is also an area where the business is significant, and we're also able to protect and patent toolings, procedures, and so forth, so that we can capture some of the aftermarket value also in distant markets. This is an illustration of how significant we believe that the cost effectiveness is in it. You see the systems that we have flown and generated electricity to the grid now for a few years, the so-called Dragon 4 systems to the right. And to the left, you see the bigger 1.2 megawatt machine. So the machine will produce 10 times the amount of energy as the machine on the right, but it's the same cost structure in your marine operations. That means competitiveness. As a company, we're a tech company. So we provide the Dragons and the close supporting technologies to that and service. But since no one is claiming this resource and it's an emerging market, an emerging industry, it's a necessity for us to, as a market enabler, also be involved in site development, partnering up all across the world in different ways with different partners to get the wheels turning. And this is something we've been doing now for several years, and we have a significant range of partners and projects ongoing. I'll be able to say a few more words on that. That means that there is a potential for small sales opportunities in this area with services and with demo projects. But the big market is related to the underwater parks, the arrays, where you can see 1 million euro in sales per megawatt installed. That's Minesto's revenue in this. A really nice aftermarket, and then you can also play around with different scenarios where some markets may be too far away for you to grasp, where you want to do licensing deals. And when we say that we partner up with actors, it's downstream in the value chain. It's related to project developers and the power producers that we're getting on board, where the list is growing of partners. And the core, the number one question that we're asked when we're talking about this within the industry is, of course, the cost of energy. And there are a handful other actors that are sort of members of the megawatt club in addressing this tidal current market. But it's basically horizontal axis turbines fixed to the seabed or attached to large floating structures that are fixed. And we talk about enormous amounts of steel in weight per megawatt installed. So when we do our best individually and sort of without revealing the company names, put that into research, competitive analysis between cost levels, the Minesto is the yellow line and the average is the blue line for this sector. And this is a huge difference for the early projects and to push the technology into maturity, whether you're starting at 350 Swedish krona per kilowatt or whether you can start at 1.5. You may still think that this is expensive, but mind you, if you go back in history and look at wind, for instance, where they were just a decade or so ago, you will see that this is highly competitive. And this cost reduction that you see here is just conventional learning curves. We're not adding a lot of scale increase or other innovations into it. So it's just sort of the engineering, grind, and manufacturing that will push us in this direction. And you also see that we will be below 100 and reaching 50 already by a gigawatt installed. We're piggybacking on existing solutions in adjacent technical fields such as offshore wind, and that means that our learning is effective in that sense. And yes, you can compare it with where the established renewables are, and you have a sales job to do, if you were in my shoes, to get the first projects going. But the quality of this electricity, where you know exactly when you will produce and how much you will produce, creates miracles on your total cost of energy for a net zero energy system. So what we see in the Faroes is that there is a willingness to pay extra, to pay premium for tidal in order to reduce overcapacity in wind investments and in different kinds of seasonal storage and also short-term storage of electricity. Storage is really expensive. We eradicate that need in many markets because of this predicted electricity production. So I believe that this is highly to our advantage moving forward. And of course, we need opportunities to deploy and build and scale this up. And the pipeline is growing. I can only show you, let's say, 2/3 of the pipeline. There's a lot of feasibility work ongoing with large partners that want to remain sort of non-disclosed at this moment. Our go-to-market strategy in this is based on our partners taking the costs for site identification and verification, and we make sure that they have the local connections to really push different types of permitting, consenting, subsidy requests in the local electricity market. Just to take one example here, it could be the company that we're working with in Taiwan called Taiwan Cement. And you may think, Taiwan Cement, we're not in the cement business. They have a deal with the government in Taiwan to really focus one business area on renewables, because cement manufacturing is really bad for CO2 emissions. So they do hydro, they do a lot of different solar, different renewables, and we're working with them to identify sites. Of course, they have the doors open to to the Bureau of Energy and to Thai Power and other relevant actors in doing this. So that's sort of a typical partner for us in a very interesting market. A market, by the way, that has the highest price subsidies for ocean energy of all markets. It's very much related to their need for security of supply. It's not so clever to build an energy system on mainland China coal, for example, long term. And they are challenged, as many other countries in Southeast Asia, with 95% fossils and a lot of coal. So those areas and those markets are target markets for us, because we know that there's going to be a push to fix those enormous problems globally. And when we talk about subsidies or contributions from, let's say, state investments into this, this is not a matter of a technology being too weak or not being competitive. If you look at the energy sector and the history of development of the energy systems, we have always had to back new technologies up with public investments and public support in different ways. And I believe that what this sector is asking for, that's peanuts compared to what we've seen in previous waves: solar, wind, nuclear, you name it, in it. And this is not general money. It's money targeting exactly the type of projects that we're looking for. And it's not by necessity so that this money will go into the mother company, Minesto AB. This can be targeted for the projects, so we can sell our hardware into the project-based companies. So this is at the core of accelerating the commercial process. And it's a significant amount of funding that is and will be available just for the few years ahead. So that's a very important component when it comes to valuing the company and looking into the future of what we may and may not be able to achieve. So I think I will hold it here. Just summarize, say that having reached the industrial milestone of the megawatt scale machine, seeing the trends like this really in our direction, and for Minesto as a company now have a position that is not only in our slides as a leading technology to conquer the ocean currents. I believe that's very important for us in the future. There were 2 Swedish companies invited to the International Energy Agency's 50th anniversary. It was us and H2 Green Steel that were there in round tables with John Kerry and others. So I believe that the need for innovation in renewables is absolutely understood, and we are there to contribute in that sphere. So thank you very much.
Very interesting, fascinating. Rights issue, last day of trading is today. Anything to add on that, or?
Well, I mean, the market isn't perfect.
No.
We know that all of us that hold shares, we suffer in that. But it also gives opportunities for new owners to come in, and what we perceive is too cheap.
Yeah, no.
Of course.
And if we look up a little bit, I mean, it seems also like a no-brainer here. But who do you compete with? You mentioned patents and you mentioned partners. Are there any other one who compete with you in this direct field, or is it alternative energies?
Over the last 20, 30 years or so, we've seen more than 100 companies and projects going after this resource. And there is maybe 10 serious actors in this. The other ones are in the fixed horizontal axis turbine sphere, and they will address a smaller niche market with really high intense flows. And they've been at it for a while. And I must say that our thinking here around why is it so slow for them is that they are not reaching the cost of energy levels that the big project actors are asking for. Okay. So we are a fresh wind in this to really get going with large-scale deployment.
Given the insight you have in the industry, is there Is there a scope for a consolidation in the sector? Is there, a scope for the General Electrics of the world to take care of this? It's a little bit of a provocative question, but you're out there.
If I may be a little bit cocky here, I'll say that we are by no means interested in that other stuff.
Okay.
We have a core technology that has the potential to conquer the world and be the de facto standard in how this is done.
Okay.
So synergies, they should be sought with, for example, offshore oil and gas companies that sit on operational assets, vessels and capabilities to exploit ocean resources. They are long-term looking to protect their assets from being stranded, so that's a good area to seek synergies. Of course, in manufacturing, with guys like ABB, Hitachi, GE, that kind of actor is in it. And there are synergies with the big project developers, Iberdrola, Ørsted, Equinor, and so forth, that sit in the driver's seat when it comes to the global population of the oceans with wind.
And obviously they should have any interest in you.
Yeah, that's our job to get them on board.
Excellent. And going forward, I think I asked every company here, what do you want us in the market to look for going forward for the next coming 12 months?
Well, I want you to expect us to harvest commercial progress from the big milestone with the megawatt system.
And I would assume that when you introduce a milestone or a contract, indeed, that may take some time for us to understand which one you have the contract with, because obviously your clients are so big, so they may actually tell you when you can, release it. Is that correct?
I mean, that is the case in some, but on the other hand, when they've decided and when you're contractually engaged, then it's obviously so that we will be able to tell the market that in almost all cases. So.
Excellent. So we will be having a very, let's say, interesting year to look ahead of when it comes to news-wise.
Yes, you have.
Well, Martin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Extremely intriguing, I would say. And if you have any further questions, I think Martin will linger around.